During our family's Sunday brunch, my sister sneered, "Good of you to show up like it changes anything." My dad let out a faint chuckle. My mom just kept eating her meal. I took a bite of my bagel and didn't respond. 3 days later, I sold the lake house and canceled all their streaming services. That night, my brother sent a message. "What's with everything being shut off?" The family group chat went wild. Then my dad's lawyer called. It was a tense Sunday gathering, and deep down, I wished I'd never walked in. The moment I arrived, no one said a word to me. The table was set with eggs, bacon, and slightly overdone bagels, but everyone was in their own bubble. My mom was at the sink, washing dishes she hadn't even used yet. My dad was glued to his usual spot by the TV, its sound barely audible. Jake gave me a slight nod from across the table. And Lindsay. She was sipping a mimosa, acting like she was at some fancy urban brunch instead of our parents' dated, beige dining room in Ohio. I didn't expect a grand welcome, but the silence hit hard. I pulled out a chair and sat, feeling like an outsider who'd stumbled in by mistake. For a few minutes, the only noises were forks clinking on plates and Lindsay tapping on her phone. Then as I spread butter on my bagel, she looked up and said, "Good of you to show up like it changes anything." No one flinched, no one called her out. My dad chuckled softly, my mom kept chewing. I didn't react, didn't speak, just sat there eating that dry, tough bagel like it was keeping me grounded. Even Jake didn't glance up, but something snapped inside me. Not a shout, not a spark, just a quiet, sharp break. I finished eating, muttered something about errands, and left. The next day, I opened my laptop and logged into every streaming account they used, all in my name because I'd set them up years ago when they couldn't figure it out. I'd been paying for them out of habit, and no one ever offered to contribute or take over. I canceled them all: Netflix, Hulu, Max, Spotify, even the niche holiday movie platform my mom had begged for last winter. 3 days later, around 10 p.m., Jake texted, "What's with everything being shut off?" The family group chat blew up soon after. Lindsay griped about the Wi-Fi being down. My mom wondered if the TV was broken. My dad sent a random thumbs-up emoji. No one contacted me directly, no one thought to. I watched the chaos unfold like I was observing a crumbling stage from above. That same night, I took another step. I opened my files and found the folder labeled Lake Property, the lake house in Traverse City, or as they called it, the family getaway. It had been in my name for 4 years, transferred to me by my dad to protect it from a potential lawsuit. He'd said it was temporary, just paperwork, that I'd sign it back when things calmed down. They never did. He never brought it up again, and I didn't either, so I listed it for sale. I didn't even visit the place. I sent the realtor photos from last summer, told her to price it for a fast deal, and by Friday, we had 2 offers, one in cash. I accepted and signed the closing papers. That evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. It was Ronald Beringer, my dad's attorney. The call came as I was eating cold pasta straight from the pot standing over the sink. I wasn't in the mood, and the unknown number didn't help, but I picked up. He introduced himself, said he was calling on my dad's behalf, and got to the point. My dad had learned the lake house was listed and was, in Ron's words, extremely upset. He wanted to know if it was a mistake or if I'd acted alone. I stayed silent, letting him talk. Ron said my dad believed the transfer was temporary, that there was an unspoken deal I'd return it once his finances stabilized. He mentioned potential legal consequences and serious outcomes if the sale went through. I told him to check the county records. Silence, then a forced laugh. He asked if I had the transfer documents. I said I did. He asked if I'd send them. I told him he'd get them through proper channels like everything else. I hung up. The next day, I got an email from someone at Ron's firm. This one was sterner. They formally demanded I stop all sale activities pending an ownership review. I forwarded it to the title company with scans of the deed, transfer, and notarized record from 4 years ago. I didn't respond to the email. On Wednesday, the sale closed. The buyer from Chicago paid cash, no inspection. I watched 6 figures hit my account like I just won a bet no one thought I'd take. By Thursday night, my phone rang again, my dad. I let it ring 4 times before answering. He didn't bother with a hello, just started yelling about betrayal, family, and how I'd taken advantage of him. He called me a crook, stealing from my own blood, and swore he'd sue me until I was broke. I let him vent. Then calmly, I said I'd kept every document, every email, every receipt. That I hadn't touched the house in 4 years and no one had asked for it back. That if he wanted to go to court, I'd be ready and I wouldn't cover his legal fees this time. He hung up. That weekend, I found my car covered in eggs. Not just the windshield, roof, doors, hood. Yolks seeped into the vents. It stank for days. I knew it was them, probably Lindsay. It was her style, petty, childish. If she couldn't win, she'd lash out. I got it cleaned and moved on. Monday morning, my mailbox was crammed with shredded paper. Flyers, junk mail, random scraps stuffed so tight I had to dig it out. No note, no signature, just mess. Again, I stayed quiet. That Friday, I found my rear tire slashed. Not punctured, sliced clean through the sidewall. It cost me $170. The next week, it was the front tire. The week after, another. Always one at a time. Just enough to inconvenience me without triggering insurance. I didn't call the police, didn't confront anyone, just replaced the tires and saved every receipt in a folder labeled nonsense. But I wasn't done. 2 years ago, Lindsay couldn't get a car loan. Her credit was trashed, late payments, a college repo. She begged me to co-sign, said it was just to get approved, that she'd cover every payment and I'd never have to worry. She missed the first payment. I didn't tell her. I paid it. Then the next and the next. For 24 months, I covered her car loan out of guilt, habit, or some foolish loyalty. I don't know, but no more. That Friday, I logged in and stopped the autopay. No warning, no message, just silence. I closed my laptop and waited for the fallout. It took 3 days. 3 days after I stopped Lindsay's car payments, my phone blew up. Monday morning, I had 9 missed calls, 7 voicemails, and 13 texts, all from Lindsay. She rarely called. She'd text for favors, send voice notes for rants, or passive-aggressive gifts for clout. But this time, she called. Over and over, I didn't answer. Her texts started simple. Yo, did the loan payment mess up? Then the real ones hit. My car payment didn't go through and I got a late notice. What the hell, Andrew? If this is a prank, it's not funny. I need to drive to work. Then nothing, 2 hours of silence. At 11:32 a.m., the family group chat erupted. Lindsay, someone's screwing with my account. My car payment bounced, and I'm overdue now. Who knows what's happening? Jake, isn't it your loan? Dad, figure it out. Mom, why is there so much drama lately? We're better than this. I didn't reply. I just watched them talk around me like I was some hired hand who'd quit without notice. At 3:10 p.m., Lindsay posted a screenshot in the chat. Her loan portal, a big red warning at the top. Payment failed. Account past due. Jake reacted with a thumbs up, probably by accident. I kept reading. She wrote a long rant about how she was working on her credit and how someone, me, had decided to ruin her out of spite. She claimed she'd never asked for help and wasn't even sure why I was involved. Right. I left the chat and deleted it. I was done with their lies. 2 nights later, Jake messaged me directly. He didn't ask what happened. He already knew. He'd been caught in the storm. He just wrote, "They're losing it." I think Dad broke the hallway door. Lindsay's calling everyone she knows. Mom hasn't talked to anyone since yesterday. I asked how he was doing. He said, "I need to get out of here." I told him I'd pick him up the next day. We didn't go back to the house after I got him. Just grabbed burgers and drove to a part of town we rarely visited. I'd been checking listings for weeks. Found a small 1-bedroom in an older complex, cheap, clean, near a bus line. Rent was $600, utilities separate but manageable. I didn't tell him until we pulled into the lot. He thought we were just killing time. I handed him the keys and told him to check it out. He stood in the empty living room, hands in his pockets, just staring. Then he asked, "Why are you doing this?" I said it wasn't a handout. It was a loan. I'd cover the deposit, first and last month's rent, and some startup costs. But he'd pay every cent back. Not because I needed it, but because he needed to take it seriously. First payment due in a month, whatever he could afford. No free passes, just a chance. He nodded and said, "Deal." That night we stopped by the house. He ran in, grabbed a backpack and his gaming console, and was out in under 10 minutes. No one stopped him. No one asked where he was going. Maybe they didn't care. Maybe they knew. I dropped him off with some groceries, an old mattress I'd brought earlier, and a Wi-Fi router I'd set up in his name. At midnight, he texted me. "This is the first time I've felt calm in months." I didn't reply, just smiled and put my phone down. Let them spiral, let them scramble. I wasn't finished yet. Cutting ties with your family isn't always dramatic. It's not shouting or slamming doors or tearful farewells on the porch. It's when you stop responding. Stop fixing their problems without being asked. Stop paying, explaining, showing up. That's when they notice. It had been weeks since I stopped Lindsay's car payments and got Jake settled. No one had called me since. Not even Lindsay, which was surprising. She probably thought I'd cave, send a payment, clean up her mess like always, but I didn't. And she didn't ask. I had time now. Real time. No more juggling bills that weren't mine or pretending I cared about family dinners where no one acknowledged me. One night, I opened my bank records from the last 2 years and ran the numbers. I'd saved just over $11,000. 11 grand that used to disappear monthly into Lindsay's car payments, insurance top-ups, late fees she never mentioned. 24 months of quietly draining me because she was fixing her credit, and I was the reliable one. Then I looked at what I'd spent on Jake. Rent for 2 months, deposit, mattress, groceries, a bus pass, total just under $3,000. And Jake was working now, part-time, at a hardware store. He sent his first payment right on time, $100 with a screenshot of the transfer. I didn't comment, but I saved it in the folder with his lease. He was trying. No excuses, no drama, just effort. A week later, I ran into Uncle Brad at the grocery store near the dairy section. He seemed surprised to see me, asked how I was, then leaned in like he was sharing a secret. "Your mom says you're going through something." I smiled. "You could say that." He paused. "She said you cleared out the family accounts, sold the house right out from under them." I laughed. "The house that's been in my name for 4 years. He glanced around like someone might overhear. "Between us, no one really buys that story. They've been over the top since you were kids. Everyone knows Lindsay's the favorite." I didn't respond. Then he said, "We're staying out of it. I told your dad that too, but just so you know, not everyone thinks you're the villain." That hit me harder than I expected. Later that week, I saw my cousin Allie downtown. She pulled me aside, bought me a coffee, and said the same thing, that my parents were telling people I'd abandoned the family, gone cold. But she wasn't convinced. "I don't know the full story," she said, "but they always leaned on you too hard." Apparently, the extended family was split. Some stayed quiet, others quietly rooted for me. None wanted to challenge my parents directly. They were still family after all, but more than one relative told me in their own way, "We get it." That was enough. I didn't need them to pick sides. I just needed them to stop acting like my parents were perfect. And Lindsay. She stopped posting vague sob stories online after getting a notice that her car would be repossessed unless she paid up. I didn't say anything, didn't warn her, just let the system do its job. Meanwhile, Jake texted about a second job interview. He was thinking about night classes next semester, didn't want to stay in retail forever. I told him if he kept up his payments, I'd help with tuition when the time came. Same terms, every dollar a loan. Earned, not given. For the first time, I wasn't the family's ATM. I wasn't the fallback for people who never reciprocated. They wanted to act like I didn't matter. Fine. Now they could live in a world where I truly didn't. A month after getting Jake settled, I got a letter, not a text, not an email. A handwritten letter in a torn envelope with a shaky return address. No stamp. Hand-delivered from my mom. It was brief. She said she hoped I was okay, that she missed how things used to be, that Dad was still furious. And Lindsay was struggling. Then at the bottom, almost as an afterthought, "Please don't destroy the family any further." That line stuck with me for hours. Please don't destroy the family any further. As if I'd taken something from them. As if I'd only caused pain. No mention of what I'd given. The house, the money, the years of showing up when they barely noticed me. No apology, just guilt in shaky handwriting. I burned the letter in a bowl on my balcony. 2 days later, Jake called from a friend's phone. His had been cut off. Mom had removed him from the family plan. I told him to keep the borrowed phone for now. He said thanks, but he'd figure it out. He'd get a prepaid and handle it. That same night, my credit monitoring app pinged. A new auto loan inquiry. In my name. I froze, opened the alert. It was from a dealership in the next town. Someone had tried to apply for financing using my social security number. It didn't go through, likely because I'd locked my credit after the house sale, but the attempt was made. I called the dealership the next morning. They said a woman had come in with my info, no ID, just details, claiming she was authorized because I was handling it remotely. They wouldn't give a name, but I didn't need one. It was Lindsay. I filed a fraud alert that afternoon. Didn't tell her, let her wonder why her next try got blocked. Let her keep sinking. That weekend, I visited Jake. Brought some frozen meals and a few kitchen supplies. We sat on his beat-up couch, watching him fiddle with a wobbly chair someone had given him for free. He said he was picking up extra shifts and planned to pay me back $150 a month instead of $100. I asked why the change. He shrugged. Feels right. Then he said, they're spiraling worse than ever. Dad tried to get into my email last week. I caught the login attempt. I nodded. Sounds like them. Then he said something unexpected. Lindsay said they're planning to come after you legally again. Not through the courts, though. I asked what he meant. She didn't say much, just that they're gonna make you regret turning your back on them. I didn't reply, just let the words linger. It wasn't a direct threat, but it wasn't nothing either. Jake saw my face and said, I told them that's the problem. They never knew what to do with me either. By the end of the night, I was back in my apartment, on my couch, watching Jake's rent payment hit my account. On time, no fuss. And in that moment, I realized something. The more they unraveled, the quieter I got and the stronger I felt. They had nothing left to hold over me, and they hadn't even realized it yet. 3 months. That's how long it had been since I cut the final tie. No calls from my mom. No voicemails from my dad. Lindsay hadn't reached out either, though Jake said she tried using my info again to open a store credit card. That got shut down before it was even processed. I reported it and moved on. It wasn't even surprising anymore. Jake was still in his small apartment, still working 2 jobs, still sending payments every month, sometimes just $80, but always on time. Always with a note. Still trying. That meant more than anything I ever got from the rest of them. He called one night after work, said he wanted to take an HVAC certification course. Night classes. Said he'd checked the tuition, and it wasn't too bad, but he couldn't cover it all yet. He didn't ask for help, just said it aloud like he was testing the idea. I told him what I always did, keep up the payments, stay consistent, and I'd cover it as a loan. Every dollar tracked, nothing free. He said, that's fair, and moved on to another topic. That night, I opened the folder on my desktop labeled Family Chaos. I hadn't touched it in weeks, but I wanted to see the numbers again. I added up every payment I'd stopped, every subscription I'd ended, every loan I'd cut off. Total saved, $11,052. Then I calculated what I'd spent on Jake, apartment deposit, rent, furniture, groceries, a phone when his got cut. $3135 total. That left me with $7917 I'd never have seen if I'd kept playing their game. I hadn't spoken to my parents. They hadn't tried. Jake said things at the house had gotten strange. Lindsay moved back in for good. Dad started locking his office. Mom took down every family photo with me in it, like erasing me would fix things. They told their story to anyone who'd listen. That I'd robbed them, abandoned the family, betrayed them for money, but they always skipped the details. The years I paid for everything without recognition. The lake house they signed over to dodge taxes. The way they laughed when Lindsay humiliated me at brunch. People noticed those gaps. I saw Uncle Brad again at a gas station. He gave me a cautious nod and said, heard they're still mad. Heard you're still coming out ahead. I didn't respond, just smiled and finished pumping gas. He said, most of us think you did what you had to. We just don't know how to say it without starting a fight. Then he added, must feel good to not be needed anymore. And it did. That was it exactly. I wasn't needed. Not anymore. I was free. And they were still stuck in that house with each other. 3 months later, everything was different. Not for them, but for me. They still lived in that same rundown house. Lindsay moved in permanently. She sold the Audi after missing 2 more payments and getting another repo notice. Bought a 10-year-old Honda with cash, probably scraped together or begged from someone else. Jake said she still acted like she ran the place, snapping at everyone, blaming others for how unfair life was to her lately. Dad barely left the basement anymore. Sat in his recliner, remote in one hand, beer in the other. Jake stopped going down there, said it was like walking into a shrine of regret, filled with silence, muttering, and bitterness. He didn't bother hiding. Mom started rearranging the house again, moving chairs, relabeling kitchen jars, sorting unused cabinets. Her usual tactic when things fell apart: control the small stuff while the big stuff crumbled quietly. They never reached out, not once. So what do you think of this story? Do you agree with the choices made, or do you see it differently? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this tale, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next story. See you in the next one.